Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushua, Bahasham, Arachak, Wadash. Double honors to all the apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations to the tabernacle of David, the hopeful elect that are scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. And I just want to report on this. You know, if you haven't been watching the news, there was a demon here in Vegas that, was caught, cooking up a gumbo of pathogens. They discovered a biolab in his home. And they cracked down and arrested the guy. And then they also arrested the property manager because they believed that he was probably more than likely a co-conspirator. And when I read the report and I saw his name and his identity, I was like, it's a lot more plausible to believe, that he was involved. All right. And you're gonna, it's gonna make sense to you once I read it. As soon as I read who is what his national identity is, you're gonna be like, oh yeah. Because these people, man, the scriptures say that in Proverbs that they can't sleep except they have done mischief. Let me get Proverbs 4. And 16. And it says, for they sleep not except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. So it's in them. All right. They gotta come up with, something that's gonna cause, mental or bodily harm or anxiety, or pain. They just have to do it. They only know how to do evil. Okay. This word mischief. Let's look up that word mischief. And the word is ra'aya or ra'ai. It's like your eye, right? It says spoil literally by breaking to pieces, figuratively to make or be good for nothing, i.e. bad physically, socially, or morally. Afflict. All right. It says down here, evil, to show self-friendly by mistake, for do harm, do hurt. This is what they like to do, man. Okay. Esau's he's a natural evildoer. But you got, these other nations, they're the same way. And that's why, when you go back to the time of Noah, it's basically said the world, all they can do, the mind of everybody was just evil. So all they could do was just come up with evil plots and plans and, carry it out. It's like Genesis 6. And verse, is it 7? And I'll read it in the NLT. It is Genesis 6 and 5. It says, the Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them and put them on earth. It broke his heart. And this is what brought, the first judgment, which was the flood. All right. But if the Lord was to bring water to this current earth now, since all this wickedness have sprung up, since then, using water would be generous. That's why the Lord's going to preserve it to fire in a day of judgment. There's just too much wickedness. There's too many wicked devices in the earth. But anyway, so it tells you about, the nature of these people. They can't even sleep except they have done wickedness. And let me get Micah 2. And the Lord, one of the things that the Lord hate is one that deviseth, wicked imaginations, and one whose feet, run to mischief. Is Micah 2:1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand." And all this wickedness is being searched out. Okay, all these trafficking rings, these heavy drug pushers. You're finding out that it's really your elite. They keep finding these big drug busts with tons and tons and tons or boatloads of narcotics. And where are they? What are they doing with it? You hear about the incident on in the news coverage, and then you don't hear nothing about it anymore. So these devils, man, they're on the clock, man, when they're doing their dirt. All right, all day, every day, even on their beds. And when you cooking up gumbos of pathogens in your home, you might as well be working evil upon your beds. I mean, that home is where your bed is at. All right. So this happening right now at this time is all interesting in itself, because they're already pushing fear, through mainstream media. They're talking about this Nipah virus is just getting worse, it's getting out of control. The dangers of this particular virus. Certain airports are starting to screen people. So we already know what time it is. And then they just let it be known that the WHO, they did a simulation with 31 countries. And that's usually what they do right before a pandemic, or a so-called, we call it a PAL pandemic, But anyway, it says, this is from the Las Vegas Review Journal. It says, judge orders release of suspect arrested in alleged Las Vegas biolab case. So off top, this guy, he gets to get, released. Showing you that, these devils, when they do their wickedness, they get immunity. There could be evidence that they suppress on purpose because of who these people are. And, I went into it in one of my previous lessons. These, the little hat people, a lot of them be associated or participants or even leaders of these rings that they're cracking down on. But for whatever reason, they get let go or they don't talk about them. But who will take the fall? The average peon. If you don't have the same status, you don't have the same wealth, you don't have a certain identity that you can be protected up behind, then yeah, they'll persecute you at the fullest extent of the law. And that's why the scriptures talk about being partial in judgment. You're not supposed to have respect of persons in judgment. But this is what these devils do, and they go scot-free. A lot of people are saying that this dude Epstein, this motherfucker, he ain't even really truly. They said they spotted him over in Israel. People took a picture of him. He got a full beard, long hair, just to try to disguise himself. And I believe it. Okay. These devils are that diabolical. But anyway, let's read some of this. It says, a federal judge ordered the release Friday of a man arrested in connection with what authorities say was an illegal biological laboratory in the East Las Vegas Valley, Ori Solomon. So you can just read that name and be like, what national identity is this one? And then knowing the track record of that certain national identity or that so-called race, and how they are known to cause trouble everywhere they go, right? You just have to put two and two together. It says has been charged federally with a count of being a prohibited person in possession of a firearm. Authorities have identified him as a property manager for the house that law enforcement entities have investigated and that is connected to Chinese citizens facing their own federal case in California. Police said Solomon was a main agent and conspirator with one of the Chinese citizens, and I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm pretty sure that this person has a lawyer, and I'm pretty sure that they can use what they call plausible deniability. All right. Even if there is evidence linking this guy, they can use plausible deniability. All right. Especially because of, what he is, right? They all got that badge of protection. Okay. These are really the descendants of Cain. Literally get away with murder. Because this is wickedness. All right. This, they're saying that allegedly a few people have been sick because they got in contact with the waste that was disposed or discharged, and it is real fishy right now, man. And eventually, they're more than likely going to lock this thing down again. Okay. So Solomon's defense attorney maintains his client's innocence. Our client doesn't have any real involvement with whatever that lab was doing, and we vehemently deny any allegations that he was involved with anything dealing with the lab, said defense attorney Charles Goodwin after court. And let me do this. Because like I said, they can use plausible deniability. Plausible deniability is the ability of leaders or organizations to deny knowledge of or responsibility for unethical, illegal, or unpopular actions because there is no direct, concrete evidence proving their involvement. It acts as a defense mechanism to protect high-ranking officials. And like I said, if you are one of them, right? Then scriptures tell you that Amalek is the first of the nations, man. That means that they would be a high-ranking nation. They would be at the top. You go to Numbers 24. Numbers 24 and 20 says, and when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. And the Most High gotta definitely hate your existence if you're one of the main nations that the Lord always talk about ending. Saying that there's gonna be no remaining of you, But you have to exist, out of necessity to bring that balance, good is set against evil and life against death. And you look up that word first. The word is Ra'ashiath. And it says, from the same H7218, the first in place, time, order, or rank. All right. First, beginning, best, chief. So a chief has a high ranking order. And this is why they're at the top, and this is why they have all this control. And they're above the law. They have all this immunity. They're responsible for all of this crime. We was reporting on what was happening down there in Argentina, where they was catching several citizens starting fires down there. because we know ultimately what they're trying to get. They're trying to get they lay hands, lay hold on the lithium triangle down there. They want the resources. So I wouldn't put it past this individual. All right, but this can very well be used, placed into the narrative, and now all the country got to be alert, be aware. Something is going to be spreading and going around, and this and that, and third, and wear your face mask. And they can, because they was playing with people going back 2020. They kept on changing the narrative when it came to protection. Does wearing this face mask, does it prevent the spread? Does it prevent the transmission? And they were saying at first, it's not a guarantee, and they usually, get through them and this and that, or just wash your hands. It ain't that serious. Then he kept changing it. That rat, Fauci, which where the hell he went? Why did he get pardoned? When it was all coming out and everything that he was saying and telling the world was a straight up lie. That's why you can't never trust him. Psalms 58, the wicked are estranged from the womb as soon as they be born, speaking lies, man. That's all they know how to do. So this can very well be plausible deniability, man. We're just knowing their track record. That all they do is mischief. Proverbs 24 and 8. It says, he that deviseth to do evil shall be called a mischievous person. So now let's go here now, because it's going to disclose who this, who was involved. Moab, which I'm tired of them too. They right behind E. They conspired. They both are co-conspirators in a lot of this wickedness that we're seeing today. All right. It says pathogens that can kill thousands. U.S. Senator is sounding the alarm over a secretive Las Vegas biolab. So this is gaining traction throughout the media. It says lawmakers are calling for immediate investigations and stricter controls after authorities uncovered a suspected unauthorized biological laboratory operating right inside a Las Vegas home. The circumstances around the situation, its connections to a bigger lab in California, and the contents of the lab are fueling major concerns about national security and potential foreign ties. These motherfuckers are up to no good. The property was discovered because of its link to Jia Beizhu, a Chinese citizen, so a Moabite. It's always a nation from the enemies list when you read, was that Psalms 83rd chapter? It's always one of them, man. It mentions Edom. It also mentions Amalek, right? Even though Amalek was one of the great grandsons of Esau, still an Edomite. And then it also mentions Moab and Ammon. All right. So Moab is on that list. And the Lord's going to deal with them accordingly. It says, who is in federal custody because of a biolab found last year in Reedley, California. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Sheriff Kevin McMahill did confirm that investigators located more than 1,000 pieces of evidence containing potential biological and hazardous materials. It looks like the property manager is facing charges too. Police arrest Ori Solomon, an Raleigh citizen. Who would have guessed it, right? I say this motherfucker guilty. All right. But hey, I speak as a man. This is all alleged. But It's plausible to believe at this point, given their track record, the nature of these people. All right, why are you down there starting fires, man? Why are you running underground tunnel traffic rings? You know, all these Epstein files coming out. You are the border of wickedness, as it is written. So when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, for sure. So we're gonna see, what occurs from this. All right. But continuing on, it says on charges related to disposing of and discharging hazardous waste. According to a Fox News report, the unknown biological compounds and chemicals were mainly locked away in the garage of the residence. Now, lawmakers are raising serious questions about how Zoo was able to access and transport them in the first place. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, the top, the government, and they're playing like, they're just investigating. They don't know what's going on in their own country under all this technology, surveillance technology. This can very well be the pretext to set off the next PL and demic. It says the scale of finding reads more like a comic villain's lair than real life. It says the danger involved here is terrifying, especially when you reflect on what authorities found at Zoo's 2023 facility in Reedley. That lab reportedly contained suspected agents like tuberculosis, HIV, and dengue virus, right? And even the deadliest known form of malaria. So this motherfucker had a cocktail, a straight up gumbo pot, cooking in his lab. So they trying to, get people out of there. And this coincides with the agenda of the elite. Depopulation, population control. It says Senator Tom Cotton, our ARC didn't mince words about the risk these materials pose, pointing out that it wouldn't take much of these deadly pathogens to kill thousands of Americans. So they're gonna, they're saying this could be a connection to the Chinese government. They don't know. They're getting leads on it, investigating it. Could this be a biological attack, by China? But why is a little hat, anytime you read their name associated with anything mischievous, you should already know what time it is. All right, their regime is known for setting up false flags, staging false flag events. To pinpoint a particular culprit or government or whatever, so that they can crack down on them. And then, of course, put the people under tyranny. The decree on righteous decrees, take away, more rights, human rights. So this is why in these times we got to definitely be mindful, be watchful, and also circumspect as it is written. I'll grab that real quick. Let's get Ephesians 5. And it says, see then, Ephesians 5:15, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. And we're definitely in evil times, very perilous. And this devil is moving like clockwork, man. All right, he's moving. So we got to be alert at all times, man, constantly watching. And the Lord did warn about there being pestilences. There's so much going out. Measles and, the so-called Nipah, this whatever they discovered in this lab, that can get out. A lot of people that took that stuff, they became more susceptible All type of information is coming out about that. So more people are prone to getting whatever is out there. So it's gonna get crazy, man. And if you a prophet, you see these things and you would blow the trumpet. If not, then you're settled on your lease and you probably got a pay cut. Jeremiah 28:8. Let me get it in the Amplified. And this is Jeremiah talking to that false prophet Hananiah. Jeremiah 28:8. It says, the prophets who were before me and before you from ancient times prophesied against many lands and against great kingdoms, of war and of disaster, and of virulent disease. So we're gonna see more spreading of these bacteria, deadly pathogens, viruses, which is basically part of the plagues. The Lord said, would plague the world. He said he would bring plagues upon the world. Okay. And Yahushua said that there would be, wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places. And he also mentioned pestilences. Yeah, we'll close out after this one. In Matthew 24, verse 6, it says, and you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And right now, you got Iran, preparing themselves. Babylon finna, act as a hammer again. So they're telling Americans to evacuate out of Iran if there is any. It says, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. All right. So yeah, we definitely got to be alert, be vigilant, be sober, and definitely stay prayed up. All right. So I just had to, go into this, because they're sounding an alarm on all these, little outbreaks and little pathogens and all this stuff. So they're going to, put fear back into the people to get the people to comply. All right. But, all around, this is just, the Lord, bringing everything, out and discovering all their wickedness. So hopefully y'all were edified. I'm going to give all honor, praise, and glory to y'all by Shem Yahushai. To the next one, Shalom.